Buffalo Gap. There's something on here, Misty, there you might need to look at.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty. Now we're all set. Okay, so we're going to be talking about communication this morning, and I titled it, How Can I Get Through to You? And I've talked about this before, more kind of in, talking about the coupleship. The communication is important in any relationship, even if it's someone on the airplane that you're, sitting next to. It's real important to get the information right. I don't know if any of you ever played that old game. We called it gossip. I think there's another name for it. Chinese whispers, where you'd get in a circle and one person would start it, you'd say something, and it'd go all around the circle, and then the last, you'd whisper in each other's ears, and then the last person would tell what, they heard. It wouldn't be anything like it started. And so we called it gossip, and I don't know if any of y'all ever played that, but anyway, that's kind of what communication is, if we don't get it right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about communication, and really, we can joke about it, but majority of women, the statistics show that we have about 20,000 words per day to use. Men use about 7,000. Sometimes if we're married to that other person, we'll use up their words too. They'll just they'll just get quiet because they can't, women a lot of times, if they are talkers, they will talk over their husbands. And so I'm not going to this is not just for coupleships, but it is interesting to take note that, in a marriage, and it could be reversed, but very seldom is it reversed. It's usually the woman doing the talking. And I know in my own relationship, my husband was quiet. He was a quiet man. And it drove me nuts. It drove me crazy because I wanted him to talk. And we'd go on a trip, and half the time he wouldn't say a word. And I'd say, well, let's talk. And he said, okay, what are you going to talk about? He was not he just wasn't much of a talker. And so, I used to be very quiet. I was very shy, very bashful, hardly said anything. But I got over that, and I learned, I found my voice. So anyway, I want to talk about, like I said, about communication and how important communication is, and how, to really engage another person in communication. The number one thing is listening. Listen. Have a listening for each other. Because a lot of times in communication, we're not listening to the other person. We're waiting for them to stop talking so we can say what we want to say. And sometimes we'll even interrupt the person, if we're not good communicators. So the number one thing is have a listening for the other person. That's the best gift that we can give our loved ones. That's the best gift that we could give to our children, is to have a listening for them. I remember when my daughter Kim she was about 7 or 8 years of age, and I was a busy mother. I'm not defending myself, but when you're raising 7 kids and you have an alcoholic husband, blah, 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 you're busy. And you're keeping a spotless house and all of that, so all of those unnecessary things. But anyway, I remember one day I was at the kitchen sink washing dishes, and Kim came up and she wanted to talk to me about something. And I said, okay, baby, well, just talk to me and I'll keep, while I'm washing the dishes. And she looked up and she said, but Mama, you never look at my eyes. And that taught me a lot. You never look at my eyes. And so that's about making contact. You know, I had to stop washing the dishes and turn around and actually look at her, look into her eyes, and have a listening for her. So listen, 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 listen. And then number two, and I've kind of worn that out, number two is get to the point. Majority of the time we can overtalk a situation. So get to the point. What is the point that you're trying to get across to the other person? You know, this is where I said, you know, that women have a lot more words to say on a daily basis most of the time than men. And so get to the point. Number three is when you're communicating to the best of your knowledge, you know, whether it's if you own a business, if it's an employee, or if you are employed, if you know you work for someone, or you're in certain social situations, see to the best of your knowledge, know your listener. Know something about who you're talking with and what their communication is. If you really know someone, you know, kind of realize what their communication is, because when you know your listener, a little bit about your listener, you're going to understand more of what they're taking in, and it's not just coming out your mouth. You'll really have a knowing that how to communicate with that person if you know their listening skills and and really that's more about people that you really know, and because we all communicate different, so know your listener. And number four is when you're really talking to another person, it's important that if you really want to get their attention, be assertive. Now, I don't mean aggressive. Be assertive, and be active. Be active in your talking. Have a little bit of enthusiasm about what you're saying. If you don't have any enthusiasm about what you're saying, they're not either. They're not going to have a listening for you. So be assertive. Assertive is having a voice, knowing that it's okay to speak. Now, being aggressive is different. It is about, you better listen to me. It's about giving orders. It's about dictating. It's about control. It's about telling another person how they're going to be so you will be comfortable. That is not communication. That's control. That is codependency at the core. And so being assertive is being able to say what you want to say and then set those boundaries. And this is all about self-esteem and boundaries also, but it's about setting a boundary and not be a boundary violator, where you are violating someone else's boundaries, or you let them, violate yours. And then one of the things is not speaking in a monotone speaking voice. Have you ever tried to listen to somebody that just talked, never raised their voice or lowered their voice? They're the most boring people in the world. It's like, go ahead and get it said, say something, get it out. That monotone speaking voice. And a lot of times that is about the person that's doing that. It's a lot about their low self-esteem. And these are the folks that will literally put you to sleep. We went to a church for 25 years, and the minister, he was a sweet man. The church was good. The people were good. And that man had 3 points in a poem every Sunday morning. He was the most boring preacher. You can be a good pastor. The pastor is someone that takes care of their flock. A preacher is someone that preaches the word. And he would have all of us just, sleep in the pews. That monotone speaking voice, he never raised his voice. So anyway, if you want to put somebody to sleep, speak to them like that. Another thing, number 5, that is very important is body language speaks louder than words. Watch your body language. You can be saying something loving and, for example, I'll give you a perfect example, and I guess I'm picking on Kim this morning. We're in the midst of a family week. One of my things is when something bothers me, and I've been doing this all my life, probably when I was a little girl, I don't know, that if there's something that I don't like, I have been told, because I'm not aware of it at the time, that this side of my lip goes up. It just kind of goes up a little bit. And Mother said, Cam's shaking her head, yes. And Cam said yesterday, we took a break, and she said, Mother, your lip is up. And what that means is I didn't like what I was hearing. And so watch your body language. And, y'all probably all know this is those crossed arms, when you've got your arms all crossed and it looks like you're going into battle, and, you're going to say your piece, but you're not going to let anything in. You're just going to be the talker and not take anything in. So body language is very important. Like I said, it speaks louder than words. Another thing, if you are the listener, body language means a lot. The eye rolling, the looking off, the not making eye contact, the playing with your telephone, looking at your fingernails, anything to keep from active listening. That is body language. Notice your body language. And in today's time, and I've already said it, the biggie is telephones. If you want to really let people know how disinterested you are in them, you keep a hold of your phone while they're trying to talk to you. What that is saying is, I don't really want to hear what you're saying. I'm not engaged, but I'm sitting here and acting like I want to, but you put the phone down and turn the phone off if you really want to have a conversation with someone. And I think that's a problem for a lot of people in today's time. So, number 6. Now, this isn't appropriate all the time, but if you're having like a serious conversation, maybe you're the boss and you're talking to an employee, or maybe your boss is talking with you, or maybe you're in some kind of a meeting, or you and your spouse are talking and you really want to hear the person and you really want to remember what they're saying, that you're really engaged in the listening, particularly for folks my age or whatever, take a few notes. Ask them, is it all right if I write these, some things down so I'll remember? Ask them first. And if you don't do it while you're talking, the minute you get through, go write down what you heard them say. And but if you're talking to someone that you really want to remember what they're saying, they will probably think it's more of a gift that you really do want to hear them, and say, do you care if I take a few notes? So take notes. All right, number 7 is watch your tone. We can say some of the sweetest words to people. I mean, just sweet, but we can say it at the top of our lungs, or we can say it loud. We can, say it hateful, and it doesn't get to their ears. Or if it, they don't get the message. So watch the tone of your voice. Myself, I was sitting in Family Week yesterday, and I got a little aggravated, and I could tell by the sound of my voice that aggravation was coming out in the sound of my voice. And I thought to myself, stop this, Tennie. This is not about you. This is about these folks in this Family Week, because, I got into a little judgment, And because I'm still a judgmental person, and I think we all are to some level. But the thing about it is to catch ourselves, being judgmental, and then change whatever behavior that we're into. So I was into, a little bit of my judging yesterday, and I could tell by the sound of my voice. Because there's sometimes when I hear what people do, I want to say, my God, why do you do that? Oh, anyway. So the sound of our voices, I think, can be a lot about the tone, and we can miscommunicate what we really want to say to a person by the tone of our voice. If we have something important to say, and if we're very quiet and we don't, really, they can hardly hear us, that's one extreme. Or if we're agitated and we're loud, either way, they're not going to have a listening for you. Okay, so watch the tone. Another thing is, before you enter communication with another person, particularly, well, anyone, but particularly people that you really care about, go into that with a right frame of mind. And one of the first things, and that's another thing, saying and I've said it several times. I've paused, and then I've said several, and then I said it again. A good communicator doesn't say a whole lot, so I'm catching myself. So nevertheless, have a right frame of mind before you go in to talk with anyone. And in Al-Anon, one of the first things that I learned in Al-Anon was about, before I say something, ask myself, is what I'm getting ready to say, is it true? The next thing is it loving? And then the next thing, is it necessary? And if it's not all three of those things, keep my mouth shut, is what my sponsor told me. When in doubt, don't. We can always say something. We can always open our mouth and say something. But once we say it, we can't take it back. We can't take it back. So that's where in the 12 and 12, it talks about pushing the pause button. Push the pause button, and I think it's in step 10. When you're agitated or upset with someone, push the pause button, take a step back, and ask yourself, is what I'm getting ready to say to this person, and usually it's someone that we have a relationship with, but ask yourself, if what am I getting ready to say, is this really true, what I'm saying? And it may be true for you, but it may not be true for them. And is it loving? And if it's not loving, you might want to talk to your sponsor about that. And then the last thing, like I said, is it necessary? There's so many things, particularly women with those 20,000 words. We think we have to use them all up in one day. There's many times that the less said, the better. Like I said, we can always say something, but we can't take it back after it's out of our mouth. So when in doubt, don't. When in doubt. And this takes staying focused. This is where in communication we don't always stay focused, because it's all about us. And we so want them to hear us. We so want them to get it. We so want them to get what we're saying so they can change what we want them to change, so we'll feel better. And like I said, that is codependency 101, the importance of people hearing what we want to say and being willing to change their behavior. That is none of your business or our business about how people change their behavior. It's your business of how you change your behavior and how you take in what the other person says to you. That's your responsibility. Okay, so another thing is speak directly to the person. remember that gossip game. A lot of times we'll pass on information. Sometimes it's none of our business. We'll pass on information, and it will do that gossip. And that's one of the things. And when I used to supervise people many years ago, when I was over at Shades, if I had one of the employees to come to me and complain about another employee, and it might be a real legitimate complaint, and I'd listen to them, and I would say, wait just a minute, and I would get on that intercom thing that we used to have, and I would invite that person to come in. I'd ask them to come into the office. So I would say, now repeat to the two of us, to us, what you just told me. And when you get two people together telling the truth, it stops the gossip. It stops it. And you can't find a solution until it's out in the open, until otherwise it becomes gossip. And so I would get them together, and a lot of times people, there's miscommunication there. What we don't know, we make up. And many times the person that would be sitting in my office complaining about the other person, that other person had some information that the other one didn't even know. So they had built up a whole case against that person, and maybe even ready to quit because of something that had happened between them and that other person. So miscommunication is really important. And when in doubt, get them together, and that will stop the gossip in a heartbeat. And communication is not only important in our business life, but it's so important in our personal life. And this is where communication has to be taken real seriously. Like, for instance, my kids would a lot of times want to talk with me and tell me things that they didn't want their father to know. And I'd had enough of Al-Anon by the time they got to be teenagers, because it was just, this would happen when they were teenagers. They would tell me things, but don't tell Daddy, because they had him up on such a pedestal that they put themselves on a pedestal when it came to their father. And they didn't want him to know anything about their acting out at all. And so I had enough Al-Anon that I would not do that. I'd say, nope, whatever you tell me, we're going to bring your dad in and you're going to tell him. Otherwise, it's splitting the team, it's splitting, me and my husband. And then if I went and tried to talk to him in behalf of the kids, that is a form of gossip. It was coming out of my mouth and not out of the kid's mouth. So all that I'm talking to you about, I didn't go to school to learn this. I learned this in Al-Anon. And if you want to know how to communicate, go to Al-Anon. I think sometimes I'll wear that out till I get people not even want to go to Al-Anon. But that's where I learned everything. There's that little book that everything I know I learned in kindergarten. Well, everything I know I learned in Al-Anon. Al-Anon is about how to learn to live with ourselves and others. When we can live with ourselves, we can better live with others. OA, I go to OA because of my eating disorder. They don't teach me a lot of communication skills. We don't do that in OA. Now, you can pick some up, but it's mainly about how I can treat my eating disorder. Or I go to AA, so I won't pick up that glass of wine again that got me in trouble. So 12-step programs are specific. So Al-Anon is about relationships. And if I had my way, every couple that would come through, or every person that comes through Shades that is in a coupleship, I would suggest that they both go to Al-Anon. I go to different meetings. But our track record of getting people to go to Al-Anon is not real high. They say they will, and then they don't, and I can tell, we can tell. And it's always if they have a complaint about the other person. When you get to looking at yourself and really look at yourself inside, you don't have much time to look outside and see other people's faults. I mean, you're just busy working on yourself. You hardly notice when other people do you wrong. I mean, it's just amazing how that works out. And then when you do that, when you become, and it's not really being self-absorbed, that's self-centeredness. It's about being self-aware, knowing who you are and knowing how to set healthy boundaries and knowing that your children can't give you everything you need to be happy. Your husband or your spouse, your wife cannot give you everything that you need to be happy. It is an inside job. It comes from within. So, where am I on this? I just very quickly stop sharing and go to preaching. So, this is something that came up that I think it was in 2013. Someone came up with this model. Y'all probably know more about it. Maybe y'all have heard of it. I had never heard of it. I read about this. It's called the Ford method for communication, F-O-R-D. Making small talk is an art. And it's hard to make small talk. Do y'all think it is? Shake your head if you think that making small talk is. Some of you, don't think it is. But some people have a hard time making small talk. And, we're getting, Christy and I are getting ready to go on a cruise, leaving a week from Saturday. And I'm going to speak several times on that cruise. And we had a meeting last night, a Zoom meeting of some of the people that are going to be on there. And there's some famous people that I have thought that I've looked up to for a long time. And I got to thinking, and that's dangerous for an addict to start thinking. But I got to thinking, who am I to go and be around these smart people to share? I mean, I can't do that. I can't do that. And how can I make small talk with all these people? I'll get over there and won't be able to talk. I mean, we make up so much stuff in our mind. But anyway, I want to give you this method for small talk. Is one of the things, if you get in a situation and you don't have anything to say, ask questions. And this has helped me years ago to learn to talk with people that I didn't know. Misty calls it that I give everybody the mini interview. I interview people. And what I do is I love to know about people. I really am sincere. I love to know about people. Down to, I kind of like to know the soap that they use to wash clothes, or, what are they doing? Have they found anyway, I just love to know about people, not in a busybody way. I just like to know what they're about and what, their values are and all. So the Ford method is this. F is, and this is, you can use this for small talk. If you're somewhere and you don't know people, go up to someone, and when you start talking, the first thing you can ask them is about their family. And particularly if they have children. I've never known a person yet that didn't like to talk about their children. Or their animals. Or their, get them talking about, tell me about your family, or, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Act interested in the other person. And then another thing is occupation. Occupation. Hey, what kind of work do you do? What do you, and then get engaged and act interested in what they do. I don't know anything about computers. I've tried to learn. I can use that phone, and I'm the texting queen. And probably if I had a big desire to learn about the computer, I would do that, but I don't. I have people, thank God, like Cam and everybody that surrounds me, Misty, Christy, they use the computer for me. So, when you ask about an occupation, when people talk about computers, I don't have that much interest, but I act interested because I could learn something and I get engaged. But you get somebody talking about a ranch or horses. I mean, I grew up on horses, and you start talking. I mean, here in West Texas, we can find people that are on ranches, and anyway, I love to know what people do. So talk about their occupation, what they do, and maybe why they chose it. Maybe they changed occupations through the years. Anyway, ask them about their occupation, and then the R stands for recreation. For some of us in Texas, football season is over. So, the thing that we've been talking about forever since spring is the Cowboys. If you're a Cowboy fan, and I stick with those boys, I don't care. But anyway, that's recreation. We talk about football. Or find something, a level, that other person likes to talk about. And ask them what they do for fun or what do they do for recreation. You might be surprised at how active people are. Ask them what they like to do for fun, recreation. And then another is, what are your dreams and goals? People love to talk about their dreams and goals. And so, if you're at a party or something, you might not do all four of those. Pick out one, or you might do all four. Be interested in the other person. Now, the kicker is, when you ask people these questions, be prepared to listen, because these are four subjects that people really like to talk about a lot of times about themselves. You get a gentleman, let's say a gentleman, because, like I said, they don't have a whole lot of words to say per day. But you ask about their work, and they'll use up all 7,000 of their words right there. If they really enjoy their work, they'll tell you all about it. Listen to them. Have a listening for them. Or ask about, what do you like to do for fun? What's, recreation? And have a listening for them. Somebody was talking about being a hockey star and playing hockey. Well, I am from West Texas. I've never seen a hockey game, probably never will, know zero about it. But I listened to that gentleman and I got interested. And the only thing I've ever known about hockey is every once in a while, I've seen a smidgen of it on TV, and it just looked rough as dangerous. I have those sticks and all. But anyway, have a listening for people. That is if you want people to enjoy you, and if you want people to really like you, if you're a talker, don't talk. Listen. If you continue to listen and never talk, find your voice and start talking. And know which one you are. Are you the one that talks all the time? Or you're the one that is silent? And I want to talk about, for just a minute, silence. We call it silent violence around here. People can get totally silent, and that is one of the highest forms of abuse to another person. When a person shuts completely down and will not talk, particularly to family members, that is silent violence. So if you're a silent person and you don't talk, start finding your voice, practice saying something, and be around people that have a listening for you. And if your family members don't have a listening, or if your spouse doesn't have a listening, if they won't stop talking long enough for you to talk, there's something wrong with your marriage. You really, really need to look at your coupleship. If it's that one-sided. So, and one more thing is, listen to your children. Listen to your children, and that takes time. because a lot of times as parents, we're so eager to give them information. I want to brag on Cam. Cam is one of the best listeners, and particularly to my grandson, Spencer. She has a listening for that boy, and this is what I make up from watching from this other side. I don't think either one of his parents have ever given him any real strict orders or real strict, raising their voices at that young man. And I'll tell you, they have raised a young man, and it's not just because he's my grandson. I'll tell you what, they've done a fabulous job with him. But I think a lot of it is that they have had a listening for him. And then if he wants more information, they have offered it. And so there, Cam. Parenting is hard, and we so want our children to learn what we have to teach them. And guess what? By the time they're 14, those earlobes have come up and covered over those ears, and they have stopped listening to parents. The first 14 years that's your chance to teach them. After that, they're not going to have a real listening for you unless there's someone like Spencer, but they won't have a real big listening until later. Usually by the time they get in college, they're realizing, mom and dad did know something. And by the time they're 25, that brain fully forms, and they realize, oh my God, they were right. They had a lot to teach me. But right at first, those formative years, those teenage years, they know it all. I peaked at age 15. I knew everything by age 15, and the rest of my life I've been trying to get back there. I haven't been that smart since. So if you're raising teenagers, God bless you. I'll pray for you. Teenagers can be fun, but early 20s, by the time they're in their early 20s, folks, you've done your job. Let them go. Now, if they need something, they'll, come and ask. Remember, no is a complete sentence. No. And when you say yes, let yes be yes and not throw it up to them later. So, alrighty, that's what I have about communication. I've said a lot of words. I think I've used up all my 20,000 words just on this. So I want to be quiet and I want to listen to y'all. So has this been helpful? Do you have a problem with the communication? Do you have a problem with listening? Do you overtalk, undertalk? So who wants to go first?